Ni hao. Wosher Robert. Wolai tse re dian. That's as much as I can do, okay? It took a long time. It might be better next time. So I've come all the way from Sweden. Unfortunately, not a direct flight, but Google Maps is a bit optimistic sometimes. And usually when I tell people that I come from Sweden, they ask me about IKEA. And if you know IKEA, we want to say on behalf of my people, we're sorry, we are working on it. It will get better. And also one interesting thing to know about Swedes is that we are very shy. So we have a lot of feelings on the inside, but we don't really show them on the outside. So I'm going to be really excited up here, but you won't be able to see it. And I've been working on the web for a long time. I started back in the end of the 1990s, and then about 8 or 10 years later, I got involved in the Mozilla community, building Firefox extensions and giving presentations and such. And then I worked for Mozilla almost 4 years as a technical evangelist around the web and trying to teach people how to build good websites. But everyone has a past, right? This is actually a young me. I'm not really sure what was going on. I know it looks like a Russian dating site. So don't ask any questions, please. However, despite this, I actually have a job. And I work at Google with developer feedback and with communities. And as part of that, I've been fortunate enough to get the opportunity to travel around to a number of different countries and to meet developers and to try and understand different challenges and different contexts and how we can try and make things better for you and also make sure that you have the right help and tutorials and guides. And with the web as of today, I want to start with mentioning that because the talk has the title, The Future of the Web, but I want to talk about the web as of today first. And if we go back about 6 years ago, there's something called Wired magazine, and they declared the web dead about 6 years ago. And this is kind of tiring because it becomes always this media thing that something is dying and it's a big crisis. Then of course, interestingly enough, about 6 years later, they had a new editor at the magazine and suddenly the web was alive again. And it's just, you hear these things all the time. And if we look only from our side with Chrome, for instance, a year ago, Chrome on mobile alone had 800 million users. About 6 months ago, Chrome on mobile reached 1 billion users. And now Chrome on mobile and on desktop together has 2 billion users. And that's only one browser out of many, many different ones. So the web is dead? Well, not really. We don't worry too much about the headlines, and we keep on building, and we have more and more people using the web and building things for the web. And I think the bad reputation, especially with the mobile web, is that this is what the experience has been like on the mobile web for a long time. You would go into a website, you would get a big pop-up telling you to install an app. You've never seen the website before, you don't even know if you want their native app or not, but this was the general experience. But it's been changing over time, and if we look now that on average, most smartphone users doesn't install any new apps any month. So if you're one of the top few apps, WeChat for instance, and a few other ones, you're really popular, you have a lot of users, but most other apps never get those users, never get that engagement. And we think also the strength of the web is that it's not just one company or one specific platform. The web is a myriad of different browsers. There's so many different browsers on desktop and on mobile out there. And what I will talking about a bit today is both learnings that we've had about the web and also things that we have implemented in Chrome and that we're starting to implement in Chrome. Not just to talk about Chrome, but also things that we would love to see standardized and things that we'd love to see in any browser out there. And also when we talk about the web apps today, it's generally progressive web apps. Progressive web apps is sort of the entire thing, the entire wave of making sure that we build really good websites and then also adding on even more greater capabilities that we've seen from the native world. And I'm going to go through 6 of them really quickly. And the first one, when we talk about progressive web apps, we want to see instant loading. Using something like service workers to make sure that you have offline access. But even more importantly, in places where you have poor connectivity or intermittent connectivity, to make sure that you can have a faster loading experience. The next one is adding to home screen. As we see with users, having an icon on home screen leads to great re-engagement and people just keep on using the app. The third one is push notification, and that was covered in Sam's presentation before, but just seeing re-engagement from users. And notifications can be terrible and they can be really annoying, but if you do them well, they can be really, really good and useful for your app as well. The fourth one is making sure that your web app is fast. And it's not only about loading fast, but making sure that the animations you have in the web app is fast and smooth, and when you scroll or if you move around, it's a nice, good experience. Also, that it's secure. Basically, for more or less any of the new APIs coming out right now, you have to have HTTPS. That's one of the requirements. And we're also implementing HTTPS for older APIs like geolocation, because we see this as a really necessary thing. And we're also experimenting with some things in Chrome, because before, if you would access a website over an insecure connection, HTTP, you would just see the URL. And then we started experimenting with writing in the URL bar that it's not secure. And then over time, it might look like something at the bottom that we will actually really start warning users that any website that you have an interaction with has to be secure, both for that website's sake, but also for your sake as a user. And the final one, of course, is making it responsive. Like if you build a mobile web app, mobile website, you want to make sure that it works on any kind of resolutions, from different mobile devices to tablets to desktops. So, in a summary, progressive web apps today need to be reliable, fast, engaging, and secure. And the core of all this is making sure that your users have a good experience. You know, experience that they're good will have the users coming back, and happy users will lead to happy developers and happy companies. And if you look back only a few years, we've come a really long way on the web and things that are being supported now. We had to implement a number of different APIs and support a number of different things, and more or less one of the only things that you can't do on the web right now that you can do in native is having contact access on your mobile phones. So I really want you to sort of remember that the web is already almighty powerful. I really hope that that is what the Chinese characters means. I should have translated this. But at the same time, it's just the beginning. All those things that we've done so far, you see notifications at the home screen and all of that, it's just making sure that we can match the experience that native has both offered users, but also the expectations that we've set with users, that this is what users want, and we should bring that to them. So finally, 32 slides later, what about the future? What are the new things that we're doing? And when I refer to the future, I can talk about very many crazy things, and but I'm not going to talk about building robots from old mobile phones and then controlling them or something. When I talk about the future, and what I think is important is something that you can use now or very soon. Something that's actually coming. I don't want to say that, maybe in 5 years you will have this. I want it to be relevant for you now. So the things I'll be talking about today is knowing who the user is, credentials management, paying for things on the web, connecting with hardware, physical web, and web VR. And first, with knowing who the user is. It's all about the challenges on the mobile web with sign-in. And usually if you come to a mobile website and you're supposed to log in and you see all of this, and it's seldom a good experience because when you see this, you start thinking about this. Like, did I use Facebook or Google or any other account to sign up? Usually you know your email address. You will never remember the password you use for this specific website. So you sit there and you're wondering and you go through the page and then you find the magical link, the forgot password link. Has anyone not used forgot password? Good, okay, we're among friends, it's okay. And also, a really hard part is on mobile keyboards, it's really hard to type. You have a small keyboard and getting the right characters in the right order and you're supposed to be fast isn't always easy. Which kind of leads to a problem. Do you know what this is? Yes, password. This is the most popular password in 2015. Interestingly enough, it actually bumped down the second most popular password, which had been the most popular for many years, which was actually the word password. So it's fun, right? But it also poses an enormous security risk. And especially because everyone's reusing their password across websites and all of that, and if one password or one service leaks their passwords, there's nothing you can do. So one thing that we started doing from the Chrome side and trying to see if we can help from the browser is introducing something called Smart Lock. And now with Smart Lock, we have about 8 billion sign-ins that we assist through Chrome every month. And basically, either this just works for you, or as a developer, you might need to do really, really small things in your website. Because generally when a browser comes to your website and then reads out the forms, it sees all the different fields. And sometimes they're really obvious and the browser will know what to do and what to store, but sometimes it isn't entirely clear. So something that you can use is the autocomplete attribute. So you can help the browser understand what each field actually means. So, okay, this is the name, this is the telephone number, this is the username, etc. And if you have a sign-in form, for instance, you can use autocomplete and just specify that this is the username and this is the current password. And for sign-up forms, when you're creating a new account, you can have the same things, but one interesting part here is you can see that we have autocomplete new password instead of current password or just password. And there are two important reasons for that. One is if you have autofill in your browser, just making sure that, you know, when you create a new account, it doesn't reuse what you already had stored or something like that. But the second one, which is really interesting, is that if we, from the browser side, knows that the user needs a new password, we can auto-generate it from the browser. So for users, instead of them having passwords like this, we can give them this as a password. I mean, not specifically this, because that wouldn't be very secure, because you've seen this now. But more secure passwords for them that might not be easy to remember, but it will make them safer on the web. And we're experimenting with auto-generating passwords in Chrome and deploying it more and more widely. So please make sure to mark up your forms today with the autocomplete attribute, because it's a really small task to do, but it means a lot for the browser and for the users as well. Then we have the credentials management API, which is sort of the next generation for sign-in on the web. And we shipped this recently in Chrome. It's not in all browsers yet. And it allows you as a developer to integrate with the browser's credential manager. And for instance, with AliExpress, they have a really good example of a good user sign-in flow. Being a shopping app, it's really important to be signed in, but at the same time, you don't want to block the user with having a big login pop-up or something like that, or blocking the experience. So as you can see at the bottom here, we're offering them automatic sign-in on the web, which is really nice. And code-wise, it's quite easy to do. You use something called navigator.credentials, and then you call the get method to get the password and sign them in. The interesting and important part here is where you see what it says unmediated. And what unmediated means is that it will be no prompt or nothing blocking the experience. It will just be done in the background automatically for the user. And for automatic sign-in and from the Chrome side to get it to work, automatic sign-in needs to be enabled. And you can only have one credential saved for that website. Also, as mentioned before, and as many other things, navigator.credentials needs to be served over HTTPS. So it has to be a secure context. Naturally, passwords aren't directly exposed to JavaScript, and also the fetch method will only submit credentials to the same site endpoint. So once you've gotten the credentials from the user, you can use fetch and just send that into the server, pass in the credentials, and verify them and log them in. If that isn't an option for you, you can use one-tap sign-in, which is more of having the prompt here. So you go to the website, the prompt comes up, you choose your account, and you sign in. And code-wise, it looks almost exactly as what you saw before. The only thing that's been removed is the word where we have had unmediated. Otherwise, it's just the same code. And getting the credentials and signing them automatically is great, right? But we also want to give the developers the ability to choose when the save the password prompt is triggered. Like, when should this actually come up for the user? When is a good time? And the way you can do that is that you, for instance, can get a reference to the form, and then you create a new password credential object and pass in that form, and then store that value. So it's, again, just a nicer user experience when it makes sense to actually store that instead of blocking them in the middle of doing something. We also support federated logins through the credential management API, which could be Facebook and Google and other accounts. And doing that is just creating a new federated credential object, and you pass in the username, and you also pass in the URL of the provider for that login. And then the browser will deal with the rest of the process. It's also important to let the user be logged out when they're done. And especially if you're using something like autofill or automatic sign-in, you don't want them to automatically sign in if someone else loads it or has access to it. So you can just require user mediation to log them out. And we've seen a number of companies starting working with this already, and some of them has it in production. So we shipped this back in Chrome 51. So please try out these websites and try out that experience. Next, I want to talk about paying for things on the web. And I think this is probably the most important topic. If we see the success of native apps, it's been mainly based on how easy to pay for things, to get apps or services or something like that, and then just keep on using what you're using. And we really need to get this right on the web. And with the rise of mobile computing, majority of commercial traffic is coming from mobile devices. And even though it's been good in native, what's really surprising is that still 66% of purchases on mobile devices are on the web, not native apps, through the mobile web. So the web, again, isn't really dead yet. And we looked at some countries in Europe and seeing how many of them were using the mobile web. And as you can see, it's sort of a trend. It's around 66% per country. And also a bit small. But we can also see, which I really find interesting digging into, is seeing 4 different actions what users prefer to use to do that, if they want to use a website or an application or something like that. So that's great. People are already, despite sort of some annoyances, shopping on the mobile web. But still, we see 66% fewer conversions on the mobile web versus desktop websites. So it's still a lot of money, a lot of shopping, but it could be a lot more. We could help users a lot more. And the reason why it's so much lower on mobile, of course, is it's still hard on mobile. And usually you see a number of people just giving up in the checkout flow when they're trying to finalize their purchase. So looking at checkout forms today and the way it's been, they are manual, they're tedious, they take a lot of time to fill out, and also requires a certain amount of taps to actually get through all of that. And on all mobile keyboards, if you're supposed to, for instance, type in your credit card number, 60 numbers, and you don't even get the number keyboard on your phone, it's hard and it's annoying, and people give up. So again, trying to sort of balance it from the browser side, we were working with autofill, just making sure that you can start something in one field and then just fill out the entire form. Because usually when you fill out forms, you more or less fill it out with the same data as you've done before. And the way autofill works is just storing the user's address and credit card and different things into the browser. And then having automatic form detection, and we see about 95% accuracy with our autofilling. And then also, if you want to, Chrome can synchronize that securely between all your different devices. So for instance, if you use Chrome on your phone and your desktop, all your autofill information can be synchronized between those two. And when it comes to conversion rate, with autofill alone, we now see a 25% increase in conversion. So that's great. And then, I mean, we can't really do everything to make it happen, but it's one of the steps of getting closer to where it should be. So autofill's been good. It's being more automatic and it's making it simple, but it's still sort of slow with forms on the web, and it still takes a certain amount of taps. So imagine a world without forms, and it would be an amazing world. And that's actually what we're trying to do, and with something called payment request. And payment request is a W3C API to just eliminate all kinds of checkout pains. And it's a simple JavaScript API, and the browser will take care of the complicated parts of the payment. And you can actually get a one-tap checkout. And this is also an openly developed standard API. Currently, it's under development in the W3C payments working group. And the idea is to create a universal cross-browser standard for any website. So this is not a Chrome-only API. We really want to see it across all major browsers. And we see interest from all the big browsers actually doing this as well. For instance, Microsoft have been doing lots of good work around this. And the implementation that we started doing in Chrome has been on mobile first. But then, of course, over time, we want to make sure that it's cross-platform, so it works on desktop and any other device as well. And also that we can support an open ecosystem of different payment methods as well, which, of course, is important. So going back to sort of the pain of forms, now with autofill and payment request, we can get rid of pretty much everything. So we can now make it fast and go from many different tabs to just one-tap checkouts, which is great. I really think it will change the experience for users, and you get much higher conversions, and everyone will be happy. And we like happy people. And code-wise, this is what it looks like. So you will create a new payment request object. And then the first parameter you see here is just passing in the different credit cards, in this case, that you support. And then the browser can use the different available methods and then go through all the other parts, like these are all the line items for what you're buying. And then finally here at the bottom, you can set a Boolean whether you want to request a shipping cost or not. And I do want to point out that our implementation and also the code that you're seeing here is based on the first public working draft by W3C. So it might change, most likely it will look just like this, but just a heads up that it might actually change. So the user experience for someone going in and buying something is that when you choose to pay for something, this pops up. You choose pay, and then with the shipping, for instance, if they requested a shipping cost, you choose what kind of shipping you want, and then you process request and you bought something. Which I think this is amazing. I think this will change things a lot. But of course, credit cards isn't the only thing. We're also looking into other different payment options. And we launched Android Pay last year, and we've seen a really big growth around Android Pay. We believe that it needs to be on the web too, and we see it as an even more secure tokenized version of your card. So as we saw before with different payment methods, if you want to use something else from credit cards, you can just add that in the first parameter. So you would have Visa, MasterCard, etc., and then you have a URL to Android Pay. And down here, you can see all the different parameters that you might need to send in to Android Pay. And the idea with this, right now we only support Android Pay, but the idea over time, of course, is to support a number of other different payment providers as well, which is vital to make this work. So, and this API should look the same over time, no matter which payment provider you use. The only difference will be maybe, you know, different values you will send in to actually make the actual payment. And we started back in May, trying this out in Chrome Dev on Android. And then back in August, we went into beta, and then we shipped it in Chrome 53 for Android. And then next year, we're looking to support more platforms and also support more third-party payment providers as well. And again, a few companies have started working with this. So if you buy something from these companies online or through a mobile website, please, please let them know how it actually works. Let us know how it works, and let W3C know how it works, because it's really, really important that we get this right and we can offer good payment options for you on the web. So far we've been talking about making it way easier for users to log in. Everything's automatic, automatic sign-ins, one-tap payments, and all of that. So what about connecting to hardware? And the web has had access to hardware for some time, actually, with accelerometers, game controllers, camera, audio input and output and such. So when I talk about hardware, I talk more about Bluetooth and devices like heart rate sensors and similar. And usually when we talk about Bluetooth, we talk about something called BLE, which is version 4 of Bluetooth, and BLE stands for Bluetooth Low Energy. And looking at the evolution of transfer rates, we see in Wi-Fi and Ethernet, it just gets faster and faster to transfer things. And with Bluetooth, it went from 1 megabit per second to 3 to 54. So you would expect that version 4 is amazing. Well, not really what you expected. And the reason for this, why transfer speed was cut down dramatically and almost sort of non-existent, is because two main factors: power and cost. And with all of these low energy devices, you want to make sure that they use as less battery as possible, so it can last without being charged or connected all the time. And the other part is the cost of producing these. Producing something with a lower transfer rate is cheaper, so we can produce more different devices and faster. And through the web, we've connected remote-controlled race cars, Bluetooth low-energy printers. You might recognize this guy, the BB-8 remote control robot. But we also connected things like Dotty, which is a Bluetooth LED notification display. So many different things. So I wonder, should I be brave enough and try a demo? Yeah, thank you. We'll see. Well, don't clap yet. We'll see how it goes. So this is a Bluetooth low energy device called a play bulb candle. It's basically just setting the mood, and you can have different colors and all of that. But what I can do is that I can get my mobile phone. And what I will be doing on my phone is that I go into Chrome and I load a website. and then I tap connect, and I get a list of available Bluetooth devices nearby, and I can see the play bulb candle here. So now I pair with the candle, and now I can control the colors of the candle, but also what it looks like. So I can change the effects. I know, it's amazing, right? But the interesting thing is that it's directly from a web page. No extra installs, no nothing. If you want to use a service, especially in most cases you only want to use a service once, you just go to a URL and use it, and you're done. And since this is supposed to be a candle, do you think I can blow it out? Let's try. Ha! Pretty cool. And this demo is available on GitHub, and I can show you more later if you want to. And when you work with Bluetooth Low Energy, there are a few terms to know. 3 different things. You have the central device, which is the phone, in this case. You have the peripheral device, which is the candle, or any kind of Bluetooth Low Energy thing that you connect to. But you also have the GAT, which is the generic attribute profile. So basically, the Bluetooth Low Energy device has a GAT server. And then you can ask the GAT server of this candle what kind of services and characteristics it supports. So with the coder, you can go call navigator.bluetooth. And as you see, the first parameter here is mandatory, and it is what kind of service you want to ask for. And the reason for that is, like, if you ask for Bluetooth devices close to you, you will get a very long list. So you only want to ask for a device that actually supports the thing that you want to do right now. Also, the request device method needs to be called with a user action. So basically, you can't just automatically do this for a user. They need to tap a button or something like that. This, again, as the other ones, it's only supported over HTTPS. But if you want to try it out, you can also try it on localhost on your machines, and it will work as well. And once you actually manage to pair with the device, you connect to the GAT server of that device. And basically, you get back that connection. And once you've gotten that, you can get the primary service, battery service in this case. And once you have that, you can check the characteristic, which is the battery level. And once you have that, you can read out the value and see, for instance, just the actual battery of that device. And same thing and with the candle and changing it, like the way we do it with the candle is that you have the primary service, which is the candle service UUID, and then the characteristic, which is candle color UUID. And then instead you call the write value method. So basically you pass in the color, for instance, that you want the candle to have. And if you look at these values like candle service UUID, they kind of seem magical. Like how do you know what is actually named? If you're lucky, when you get a Bluetooth Low Energy device, it will have a programming guide with all these things specified. But if not, you can install control software on Android and also turn on the developer options in settings. And then you can capture all the Bluetooth packets, and then you get the log. And within that log, you can actually see the different values of and names of all of these. And you can also have event listeners. Like with this candle, I'm glad it actually worked. But when you blow it out, you can have an event listener to see if the value of any characteristic is changing. So you can see, for instance, oh, it was actually blown out. Okay, now I want to do something else with it. Then we have Web NFC coming. And it's basically what it says. That on the web, you can connect through NFC to devices nearby and get JSON back and then parse that format. And I do recommend following the work by a Danish friend of mine, Kenneth Christiansen. This is actually the best picture I have of him, so I worked a long time to get a better one, but I couldn't. And you should follow his work because he's working both with the web NFC stuff, but also something called generic sensors. And basically the idea with generic sensors is that you would have a generally specified API for different kinds of sensors. So you could have a direct tire pressure sensor for your car. So if you want to, through JavaScript, check the value of your left front tire or something like that, you can get that back. And also you could work with other things like geolocation sensors and other values and get on error and on change event handlers. And the idea with this and the previous example, like it could basically be any sensor and it should be implemented and accessed in the same way. You just have the name of the sensor and then the same calls, the same methods, etc. And talking about physical devices and talking about web Bluetooth, I want to talk briefly about another project called Physical Web. And Physical Web is basically about beacons. You would have really, really small things that they put out there, and the only thing that they do is that they broadcast a URL. So if you're close to one of these with your device, you will get a notification on your phone with the URL, and then you tap that notification and it will take you to that URL. And it could be, you know, any kind of information in that page. But the interesting part is about with the physical beacons, it's only things that you're actually close to. So if you would walk around in a mall, you can walk by a store with shoes and you could send out a URL and you would tap that and they will tell you that they have a sale today, for instance. Or if you're on the train station, you can get a notification and then you can follow the URL and see the timetable. Or parking your car, you can actually access the parking meter from within the car, so you don't even have to get out and you can pay for parking, etc. So it's an easy way of just giving information to people close to where they are right now. But we're also in the future looking into interacting more with these beacons through something called referring device. And the idea with this is that with the physical beacons that you could connect to them to their GATT server, and then you can also start control things on them or directly interface with them through the web. And we've seen a bunch of experimental implementations so far with web Bluetooth. Chrome and Opera has had the first implementations, and we work on making them more and more stable. And we've seen a really huge developer interest with web Bluetooth and the things that we can create. And we're hoping to see more browsers start implementing it soon as well. Also want to talk about virtual reality briefly. And we've seen good progress on 1.0 of the API. So about 2 months ago, the first version landed in Firefox, and they've been doing really great work on VR. We're getting closer to that as well with Chrome this year. And Microsoft Edge has also begun development on VR in the browser. And about 6 months ago, we have one time per year our big developer conference called Google I/O. And at Google I/O, 6 months ago in May, we announced something called Daydream. And basically what Daydream is a specification for VR experiences. So it's more of having a reference design for a headset that should have a headband. It should have a remote control similar to this one. And at the top of the remote control, it's a clicker, but it's also a touchpad. So you can move your thumb around and control things and all of that. And then you have below that one action button and then one home button. And the first ones we shipped was with the one headset made out of cloth, which is really soft and nice to wear. Because especially if you're going to wear it over time and watching videos or something like that, it should be comfortable and not like a big piece of plastic in your face. People don't seem to like that. But that's only one of the options. But we're seeing a number of different providers from Samsung and LG and more also building devices. So it's not a Google-only thing, but it's more of something that will work across the board on Android. And you're going to see more headsets, more remote controls, and more experiences. And if you're interested in VR, I do recommend a project by Mozilla called A-Frame. And it's designed by the Mozilla VR team. And basically what it does is that it wraps a library called 3.js and WebGL in custom elements in HTML. So it's a really nice way of getting started, playing with it, see if you like it or not. A few months ago as well, we also shipped something called VR View for the web. So if you have content like 360 images or 360 videos or something like that, basically what you do is that you embed it in your web page with an iframe, you point a URL, and you have a small JavaScript library to handle it. And if you're on a desktop computer, and if you click, you can click and drag or look around and then see what it's like. But also, if you have a VR viewer, cardboard or similar, you can just put your phone in, and then you get a full-on VR experience with that as well. So it's a nice, easy way of getting started, and especially for hotels or travel websites and all that, getting more of a feeling for what it's like for where you're going. And we've also seen interesting implementations from Oculus. Like one of the co-founders of Oculus is a big supporter of VR on the web as well. And what Facebook announced about 2 months ago at their conference around Oculus was also showing more of an effort of supporting web. And also, and it's been said before today, why we're here is that we're really here to, of course, try and tell you about some of the things that we are working on, but more importantly, to hear from you what you need, what we can do to make things better for you. What are the biggest challenges as developers? What are the things that we need to do better for you? And also with bug reporting, for instance, and those things helps a lot. I should also mention, with all the different browser vendors, for a long time, this is kind of what it looked like. You had the big five, the big browsers on desktop. But that's not really where we are anymore. If we look on mobile, there's so many different options right now for users. And you would have anything from QQ to UC to Samsung browser and much, much more. And I think this is really what's both important and beautiful about the web, that the users have so many different options. They can use whatever they like and what they prefer. So the web to me is kind of like a mix of very many different kinds of things. I have no idea what this is about. But at the same time, that's the beauty, right? It's a mix of all kinds of experiences, and that's the way it should be. And summarizing all this, the way I see the future of the web is not necessarily going crazy with technology, but it's about offering a way better experience for users and for developers. 积极、很高兴认识你们。
下面现场的那个问题时间。
My English is not so good, but your topic is very important for me. You just show a web application to control the Bluetooth light, and I see the code is use a GDD tools library. I found this library very long time. Where did you find it?
A library for
GDD tools.
Oh, okay. I haven't used that one.
What?
So sorry, say again.
What?
您刚才说的是哪个 library？
GATT tools, GATT.
Oh, like the GATT, the GATT
Yes.
server? Oh, okay. So if I understand correctly, so you have, like with this, it has a GATT server, which will tell you what you can access on it. And depending on what Bluetooth device you buy, some of them have manuals or guides telling you how to access it and what it's all called. But sometimes you need to turn on logging in Android and developer tools and sort of do a packet sniffing to get the log, and then you need to read through it to find the names. We can probably find as well some good option for you where to get started if that's what you're trying to find.
Is this tool open source?
I believe so. I can check. I have one of my colleagues is the Mr. Web Bluetooth, so I can ask him about the best tools for that, and then I can share it with you.
Could you show the GitHub that you just show?
Not right now, because Pete wanted his computer back. But if you come up, I can share it with you later.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have talked about how to make login to a website simple. So I think the Turing test also block our login a lot. So my question is, what is the future of Turing test? Do you think we have some way to make it easier?
Sorry, the future of the
Turing test.
The Turing test.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I can't really answer what the future of that test would be. Like it's an interesting conversation, but you should ask Sam about that. But I think it's an interesting question. I think more and more, like in all kinds of experience, right? It's making more and more automatic and personalized without having you think about it, and you sort of assume that things work according to what you expect.
I think an interesting part of that is thinking about what's the future of the web on voice interaction devices. You know, on Echo or Google Home. You know, where's the web? There's no reason why there's not a future on those devices. But how will that work? And when that becomes something like, you know, something that might pass the Turing test, that's kind of interesting, I think. Yeah.
Okay, here's another question. The audience is interested, how do we calculate the statistics about the most popular password, like in 2015, so what's the source?
So how we calculate the most popular password?
Yeah.
It's a secret. No, so there is, I can dig it up, but there are resources that do surveys and tests and all that to calculate that. So we actually don't, we or not anyone else, I hope, know the password of every user in the entire world.
I just want to toss on that. A lot of that data comes from websites that have been either leaked or hacked their password lists, and then people then just compile them. So that's not anything that we came up with. That's something from an external site.
Yeah, we don't know your password. We don't want to know your password.
About password too, but not that one. And about the Android Pay, the Web Pay, sorry. You say the Chrome will save the password or username. I'm worried about the safe. Is that enough safe about the password? Yeah, about in the Web Pay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, the way we store that, and even before payments, we've been storing passwords through Chrome for a long time. And of course, we can't see the passwords that are being all encrypted and beyond us. You need to log in as a user to be able to use that. Like if in Chrome, you can go into settings and see all the password that you saved, but you need to enter your own master password to be able to see them or read them out. And it's the same thing for payments as well. So for instance, the way it works in Chrome right now, so for me, let's say I would want to book my flight to come here. I go into the airline company's website and I see that form. And then Chrome understands that the credit card field is a credit card field. So if I double click on that field, it pops up the credit cards that I have saved in there. So I can't see the entire number, but I can see, the last 4 digits or something like that. So let's say I choose my credit card and it gets autofilled. I still need to fill out the code on the back side of the credit card to verify that it's actually me. So you have sort of small means of still, being in the control or like PIN codes or similar, verifying that.
Okay, that means the password is not that important.
It depends, but yeah, but I think, with any kind of password handling, it's extremely sensitive, and of course for us it's very important to make sure that it's secure for users. I don't know how many years people have been able to save passwords in Chrome and Firefox and all the other browsers, Safari, but there are methods of making sure that they are as safe as possible. So like Pete said, if it would get hacked, it's so safe and encrypted, so no one should be able to actually read it out.
Okay, thank you.
OK，如果没有问题了的话，大概是6点半的时候，在1楼会有一个 party， 然后大家感兴趣的话可以参加那个 party。So if no more questions, you can go to first floor. There's a party that enjoy.
谢谢。